So having held back the first fruit, the thing started interfering with other things. Because, you see, if you put yourself first, then you have to be your own God. When the issues come up, then you have to tackle it. But if you let God be first, it would have been something else if those of us talking about it have not practiced it. I so practiced this thing that I even took it beyond it to the extreme. For example, you guys heard the story of Abuja. I got to Abuja. I was in a rented room, and the church was in a rented property. It was tent, 600-seater tent in a mechanic workshop. But I knew, I went to see Barrister Wamp. I turned 70, and I've never been to his house in Abuja, only to find I see one place they were living and the state of that thing. I walked and got him, we bought him and built him a house while I was a tenant. Why Domino's doesn't have his own property? I'm sure you heard the story. A year after, the church acquired a 400 million property, and then they developed the headquarters. Everything took about 1.2 billion to finish that whole thing. 1 year after the church, you probably heard the story of what happened during COVID, because that year was the COVID year. A very influential man came down with COVID and there was no cure. And it was Abuja that they brought, because of the only two centers, Lagos and Abuja. They brought him to Abuja. And people were dying because there was nothing. They just keep you there. And there's nothing. People didn't even know what this new disease was. So he was so frightened, he calls me. But me too, I was frightened. So I lied that I was out of the country. But you see, I preached on Sunday. This call was on Monday. And he watched. So as I was telling the lie, he said, because I didn't want him to come and see me. You want to give me this stuff? Yes. We too, we save our lives. So let's be honest here. That's the truth. So I was just telling him that I left for Accra. He said, Pastor, are you afraid? But I watched you yesterday. When did you leave? Then he said, Pastor, but all the borders have been shut. How did you cross? And I said, okay, you can come. So he caught me very well. But then the question is, where? People are, where am I going to? I refuse to go to their quarantine center. I don't want any problem. Because when I finish, I'll return back to meet my children. I don't want to endanger anybody's life. So it was the place where I had land. I had land there for 7 years. What we are planning is after COVID, we'll do a bungalow. So I can come out of that renting, because I'm sure you people will know about house rent in Abuja. What I wanted is the bungalow, 4-bedroom. Then the day we have resource, we can develop the front. So that's where he came. And I didn't allow him to near me. I prayed for him to rebook that thing. Guess what? I saw him shaking. When he finished, I said, you can go. They went back, he was healed. They checked him. They said they will keep him for 2 days. They need to take his blood and know if they can use it to find cure, if he's whatever. When they finish, so he calls again, and he's fine now. He wants to come. And it's the same place with me. I didn't allow him to come to my house. So when he came around, he looked. He said, what is this? I said, that's where I'm a tenant in this city, but this is where we are planning to. He said, He said, okay, what will it cost to raise the bill? Why are you trying to do BQ? I said, it's small. He said, no small. God has asked me to give you what it will take to do the building. There was no drawing, I called my guys. They got a drawing ready. Actually, that drawing was not the house that was built. They just found a big house that they had for another client and gave it to me. Gave the cost. He said he needs the cost immediately. And we gave him the cost. He wired it in one, just like that. So finally, they now gave me, touched that building, fixed it up, and made it final. And we started building. So everybody was locked down. We were constructing. On Sunday, I'll go for church. So the whole lockdown, I was busy. On Sunday, I'll go to church, preach. Monday to Friday, I go there to supervise. We'll do morning devotion at home. Of course, every day we were doing 3 hours Bible school in my house. When we finish, I go to site to look into what they were doing. Work was going on there. Anyway, the building was finished, but the furnishing, tiles, WC, all those internal things, the finish, that's where the real cost of building, if it's carcass. And because of COVID, the cost had gone up. So even that bill they gave did not, another big man came down with COVID. And he calls me again, because I was always on TV, bro. That watched program yesterday, that I'm down. Don't let me die. I said, come this time, because of what happened last time. And when he came, it's the same place I took him. But this time, instead of being afraid, I walked up, laid hands on him, went under the power. And then he got healed. He got healed. So he said he and his wife wants to come and thank. I took them to the same spot. So they looked around and said, what is that? I said, we're building, we're trying to get our house here. He said God told him to refund everything I spent and give the cost of it. So second time, a building that is already finished, you should be talking about helping to finish it. He said no, everything you have spent. He brought the money back. Plus, anyway, you see what I did. See what first fruit is in that situation. I could have done it for myself. But because he gave me so much money, so what I did is we actually, our appetite improved. The finishing was now superb. We did that. My friend, Pastor Glory, there, he's sitting down. We went to build him a house. The pastor of the church in Abuja doesn't have a house. We bought him a duplex and built about 5 different people, because their own was bungalows, so it was cheaper. The same money got accommodation for 5 people, their own properties. Because another person's thinking will be, now I have it, I'll put the rest in my account. That's not how I think. That's not how I think. So I have practiced this thing even to some extreme. Because I remember 2 pastors. They are not DC pastors. They said, what kind of stupid whatever that you did here? How can you go and build a house for the old man? That's the word they use. He's already old. You are the one that need house. These people don't understand. Let me give you another example that will look stupid. I was in Enugu pastoring. This first fruit matter. So it got to a point, the church, the messages were so transformative, we wanted the whole city to start hearing it. And then it will help us reach the region. So we raised funds for our TV ministry. The first day, after they got the fund, I knew this truth. So I thought. I said, I need to bring Pastor Chris to Enugu. This is Pastor Chris Oyeklome. I need to bring him to Enugu. He had an advanced TV ministry, media ministry. I said that. Let me bring him because he is a good teacher. And he used to be a great teacher in those days. Wear suit, He's whatever, with my voice, we doubled to help this city. And we used that and paid for 1 year for his media ministry when we were not on TV. One of my deacons said, you are mad, and resign. Because is this what I will be doing I'm struggling, raising for? So, do you know what happened? After we did that, time passed. A man calls me from US. I can call his name. You know who I'm talking about? I can call his name. He had funds he has been accumulating, and God is going to emerge from Enugu. One bank woman, I preach in full gospel, so some things happen. She offered me this accommodation, offered me a car, offered to, actually, first time I entered airplane in my life, it was the lady too, with her husband. It was a bank manager. And I explained to them that God called me to go to the east and start, that this ministry will go global, will come to Lagos. But that now I'm supposed to go down. He said, if you move, I will withdraw all of these things. So I stayed in Lagos 1 more week, hoping that I will convince them. 2 more weeks, until one night, God warned me seriously with a vision. And that was when I took off. So I went to, they took everything, cameras, all the things, took it. The only thing they didn't remove, the flight ticket I already have. So I went to Enugu with nothing. So a man calls me, God has asked him that he said the day that man obeys. You see, what you don't know is that while you are dilly-dallying, there is also something else you won't know. And that was it. That's how, no headache about media ministry. All this, he was one of the things he does, that TV thing, he pays it every year. And he did it till I left Enugu. Then he sends me 2 vehicles, one for Pastor Sarah, one for me. Then every 6 months, he sends me 6 new suits. I used to wear suits then, 6. And then he put me on allowance in dollars. That's how I stopped asking Domino's to pay me. After experiencing that God could provide, since that time till now, I have not gone back to any salary. Do I look to you like a hungry person? Those are beginning days. We are not playing, we are not dealing with the ocean, not with the stream. Lord. So this thing, I have practiced it in so many things. I did it with my first car. I did it with all sorts of things. One of the things you people need to know about DC, this, like PCJ, these are members of the Central Executive Council. This PCJ, Pastor Ben, Pastor Nob, those oldest ones are and they're also the signatories to your. I'm not a signatory to any Dominion City account. What is he doing with our money? Now they are the ones running it. That's why, if you notice, our pastors are among the greatest givers. The ones who give all these 100 million, 1 billion. Yes. And then they watch me first. If you don't want to go to heaven, me, I'm gunning for heaven. That's how I'm living my life. If you don't want to go, I want to go. So sorry for you. God's word is true. He keeps to his word. That's just the summary of this whole thing. And this first fruit thing, I'm going to come back to you guys. It doesn't look like we'll discuss any other thing. This first fruit thing applies to agriculture. In Israel, is the first crops to be ripe. Can you find me one of the scriptures about the first thing that opens the matrix in raising children is the first that comes out of the womb, firstborn. For animals is the first. Look at it. All that opened the matrix, that's the womb, is mine. Every firstling among cattle, so even the firstborn among your animals, whether oxen or sheep, that is male. Now watch verse 20. If the animal is an unclean animal, God said, those ones, don't give it to me. Give me the monetary value. The firstling of an ass, like a donkey, thou shalt redeem. You redeem those ones by bringing a lamb. And if thou redeem it not, then you will kill it. You break his neck. All the firstborn of your sons, thou shalt redeem. None shall appear before me empty. So, do you know the implication of this is that all of you now that have had children, your first son two. When they brought into the temple, it said that it might be fulfilled, which was written, that the first that opens the matrix belongs to God. Mary later had other children. If you want, we will read their names. He had at least 4 boys and girls. But the first child went to God's service. Hannah gave the first that came out of her to God's service. That was Samuel. And she had, I think, is it 6 orders, 5 orders to make it 6. But according to the law of first fruit, I want you to watch, because he said, every male that opened the womb shall be called holy to the Lord. This is the day Jesus was being dedicated. Start from verse 22. Let them see. 22 first. And when the day of her purification, this is Mary, according to the law of Moses, were accomplished, they brought him to Jerusalem to present him to the Lord. This is Jesus. You are reading about the birth of Jesus. They brought him to present him to the Lord, as it is written in the law of the Lord, every male that opens the womb shall be called what? Holy. Is God's property. But if you remember where I read it, go back to where I read it. Let them see something. God permits you to redeem your first son. You don't want him to be a pastor. You don't want him to be a minister. You take an offering and go before God and give it. And take back your child. So you don't say it's by force. My only son is now a priest. The firstling of an ass thou shalt redeem with a lamb. But look at all the firstborn of thy sons shalt thou redeem. He allows them to redeem them. Of course, in the case of Jesus, he wasn't redeemed. In the case of Samuel, he wasn't. So the moment the child was weaned, he was taken to the temple and he started growing to be a priest. And he ended up a very powerful prophet. This thing applies to everything. When you start a business, the first profit you make. When you start your career, maybe after school, the first salary you earn. Okay, I had a challenge with that first salary part because it's my father that trained me in school now. So in our place too, there is an honor of taking the first money you earn, first salary, after school, to go and honor your parents. So this is what I explain to people. First fruit belongs to God. Because when you're on air and that plane wants to crash, like those people, there was an airline that took off from Lagos and he has flown for about an hour, 30 minutes. Heading to US. What's the name of that? It was in United Airlines. And then all kinds of things went haywire. What everybody was crying there is Jesus, Jesus. Those pilots turned back after having gone for an hour. Thank God they have not entered the Atlantic Ocean. What happened is that when you take off from Lagos, you fly down the continent of Africa. You get to, I think I've forgotten the country. There is a place where Africa protruded a little. The map is not straight. From that place to New York, the land, the distance is shorter. It takes about 10 hours or 11 hours to cross the Atlantic. There's a places where if you cross, it might take you up to 14. And it's dangerous because anything you are going into the water. So the way they travel is you look for the narrowest part where this part and the other continent is closer. So they have done 1 hour. They have not started going into the water, on top of the water, when the problem hit. So, and they have to, the engines went, they have to fly back an hour to come back to Lagos. People were struggling, no oxygen. If you see food scatter, everybody was shouting Jesus, but they landed in Lagos. The question I want to ask, when you are in that kind of situation, if you call your father's name, will he save you? If you are dying of sickness or which, if you call your mother's name, will he save you? So I will not give my first fruit to my father. I will give my second fruit to my father. And that's what I did. Oh, yes. My father is not my God. He can't save me. He cannot. So, but remember that just like there is first fruit, there is second fruit and third. I can even give him double. But I will not make him God. And I did that for my father. And I bought wine too, and he blessed me, you know. It's an honor. First salary you earn. And he applies to different things. When I started writing book, now I have 120 books published, and I have more than, I think it's getting to about 20 now unpublished. They have been finished with their back, but they're in my shelf. But I'm still not ready to release them to the public. But that first book I wrote, and it was a small book, very small book. When they printed the first set of copies and sold them, I think it was 2,000. All the profit, all of the proceeds that came, I gave it as first fruit. So even intellectual products. I remember the first time I got Rolex watch, and this one was really heavy. Now, that's why I said I did it to the extreme. Because I've already given a watch before. So I don't need to repeat that again. But for some reason, I took it, I gave it to Pastor Taiwo Dukoy. I'm sorry that I'm calling them because it's a fact. There's nothing anybody can do about it. I did it with my car. I did it with everything. So do you think car is my headache now? Is that what you think? Do you think watch, we're still at that level? Watch. Let me show you a scripture. Jeremiah, I think it's Jeremiah chapter 2. Israel is my firstborn. Before you show me this Jeremiah 2:3, okay, let me read it. Israel was holiness to the Lord, the first fruit of his increase. So look at the next line. All